This is lovely. Got this little forest here of Acer palmatum's, Japanese maples, with some vine maples and wonderful boulders. This is an amazing garden, I can already tell. Done by a real master. See the backdrop of the large conservatory greenhouses here. As we are walking to the entrance of this garden, the path, never a straight line, going from point A to point B in a hurry, but it winds, and as you go around each corner, you see a little bit of the garden, not all of it at once. So we're seeing just a little bit of what will be the central feature in the garden, the pond. And our curiosity is piqued and we say, what is beyond this? So you continue down the path, past all of these boulders and rocks that replicate mountains and hillsides and forests and mountainsides. And you come to a fork in the path, but then you cannot see the whole thing at once. Cannot see the whole pond. You only see parts and pieces of it, and you go like, "Wow, what's around the corner? What's behind that island? What's over there?" And so it draws you in, and that's part of the mystique of the Japanese garden. It's just not viewing it from one perspective, but you have to investigate and explore. It's kind of almost mysterious. And then you begin to see it. And here, this may be the best vantage point for the whole pond and the central part of the Japanese garden. But then there's a big boulder over there that obscures your view from seeing the river that flows out of this pond. And you also can't see the waterfall. You hear it. You hear it over there somewhere, but you can't see it. So you like, okay, well maybe if I go across this bridge that goes over to this island, I will see the waterfall. And you go toward the sound of the waterfall, and these pine trees block the main view of the waterfall. You just catch a little glimpse of it. You go like, oh. And so I want to see the whole thing. So what you have to go back, across the pond, the bridge, and walk around so that you can see the whole waterfall. And then when you are over there, you can't see the other side of the pond. So you're constantly seeing new aspects and new features. And like I came across this earlier, this bridge, actually there's two bridges, one on, they come out to this island. But each time I come over here, I see something different. Look at this granite boulder. Look at the swirling striations, the folding and the twisting of the earth when this rock was formed, metamorphic rock under the extreme pressures when it was buried deep in the earth. And you have other rocks with striations and layers and colors. Movement in the rock and movement in the water as the koi swim by. Beautiful granite boulders. Some pruned taxus, some yews. So it looks like mountains with foliage, forests on top of the mountains. And again, these boulders here look like mountains, cliffs, with forests. The juniper almost looks like a forested mountainside. This is pretty well manicured too. I mean, there's some vine maples and some other maple trees that desperately needed to be pruned, but this is much better shape than you see a lot of Japanese gardens. These pine trees, they're layered and they look nice, but they need to be opened up and pruned. They haven't been pruned in a while. And it's a beautiful fall day, October 10th, 2025. So here is some more rocks that look like mountains with forested hills, and then you have the Pachysandra ground cover surrounding, so you have the different levels and layers and textures and contrasts. Really very stunning. And then we come to the central feature of the garden. So now we have a lake surrounded by hills and mountains and forests. This is an amazing garden done by an amazing craftsman. Of course, you've got to have some koi in the pond. Give life even to the waters below. Beautifully pruned pine here. This pine, somebody's been keeping up with it, I can tell. Very beautiful. Keeping it thinned, the dead needles out. We just came across these stone bridges, these granite bridge. The pond here came through an island, and here is a grassy area that looks like a hillside, a mountain with more boulders, with these giant pine trees growing up that have been meticulously pruned. So you have nature, and then you have the lantern showing the way, kind of human artistry mixed in, juxtaposed with the backdrop of nature. And the designer of the garden said that he was simply replicating nature, not so much a particular garden style from one of the several periods of Japanese garden design from the 8th century on. But he wasn't trying to replicate that so much as he was trying to replicate nature, which is ultimately what a Japanese garden, maybe from the Edo period, is trying to replicate. And here we have a forest with an island, kind of like a mountaintop with trees as a backdrop to the pond. So this forest is made up of lilacs. I have never seen lilac trees like this before. This is a common lilac, been pruned like trees, like a forest. Look at that beautiful boulder. Kind of it's hard to tell with the shadows. It's like a mountain peak projecting itself up, thrusting itself up into the trees. And here's another view of the pond and the bridge that we came across and the island. This is almost replicates high alpine forest that you see in the Rocky Mountains or the Cascade Mountains, with the small miniaturized trees that are hundreds of years old. They're small, but hundreds of years old at the 7,000 foot level, at least in the Pacific Northwest of Oregon and Washington, which is what I'm familiar with. You're walking through a miniaturized forest, and it makes you feel like you're a giant, or at least you're at one with nature, because nature now is at eye level. These giant trees are at eye level. Those trees there are only about 5, 6, 7 feet tall. You feel like a Gulliver or somebody in a forest, or maybe Paul Bunyan up here in Minnesota. Look at these boulders, different kinds of granite with red in them. Iron oxides, I presume, or something like that. All lining, kind of making you feel like these are cliffs, rock cliffs. And here's a lovely viewing platform inviting you to literally come out, step out here. And of course you have to have the sound of running water. Here's the waterfalls. Adds life to the garden with the rocks very erratically, but very purposefully and intentionally placed. Of course, more koi. And here's the island again from a different vantage point with these beautifully pruned, like a Japanese red pine and maybe some Japanese black pines, I'm not sure. And you can see how small the pines are as these people are walking through. Every point, every vantage point, there's something different to look at. Many focal points, many viewpoints, and you cannot see the whole garden or even one small aspect of the garden from any one viewpoint. It begs you, the way the path wanders around, to view it from many, many different sites, many different angles. So it's the whole idea of hide and reveal. So you don't just like, okay, stand in one place and view the whole garden from one place. You have to enjoy it, to savor it, you have to see it from all of its different focal points, viewpoints, vantage points. So it literally invites you to stroll slowly through the garden to savor the different aspects and elements of it. At least all the pines around the pond are well manicured. I'd probably thin them out just a little bit more, a little bit thick in some places, but still, compared to a lot of the pines that we see in Japanese gardens here and there, these have been meticulously manicured. Yeah, that really is the key, or one of the main keys to a successful Japanese garden is maintenance. Maintaining it, manicuring it. It has to be constantly kept up, manicured and maintained. Otherwise, it literally, law of entropy, it goes, things naturally go from order to disorder. Here's another view of the pond. There's another boulder bridge leading across one of the streams that comes out of the pond. And here we see, there's the island again, people walking across this beautiful little island surrounded by boulders that represent a shoreline, like an ocean shore. And there we see the waterfalls again from a little different viewpoint, with the towering pine trees forming a backdrop, and the shorter pine trees, and then the rocks that kind of look like cliffs and mountains, and then the lawn, turf grass that looks like hillsides or little valleys below the mountains. You just kind of see a whole caricaturized landscape here. representing seashore, coastlines, cliffs, mountains, forest lands, valleys, rivers, streams. Most people, when they walk through a garden like this, they don't really realize what they're looking at unless they understand the Japanese, get into the mindset of the Japanese artist who here was trying to replicate nature. But when they walk through, even without understanding the design elements, the principles, there is a feeling of a sense of peace, harmony, balance, and oneness with nature, which ultimately is what the Japanese gardeners are trying to inspire through replication of nature. So we're walking in the path below and behind the lake. Between us and the lake, or the pond, there is a hillside. We're now walking through the gate that leads to the tea garden. Not all Japanese gardens have tea gardens, or a tea house and a tea garden, but this one was added later. And the tea ceremony is a really important part of Japanese culture. And again, it's about bringing people together with nature in a beautiful setting, and it's about respect and dignity, slowing down, and savoring the moment through the tradition, culture, spending time with people you care about, and in a beautiful setting. That's my best understanding of it. I don't claim to know much, but I think in a nutshell that kind of sums it up. If I'm offending anybody who is much more knowledgeable about these things than I am, please accept my apologies. Now let's learn a little bit about the renowned Japanese designer of this amazing garden. What I am about to read is from the Cultural Landscape Foundation website. Born and raised in Japan in 1923, Masami Matsuda was part of a family of Japanese gardeners spanning 9 generations. Matsuda received an immersive education in garden and landscape design. Matsuda became Japan's leading tree doctor. The catastrophic events of the Second World War greatly influenced the focus of Matsuda's career. Dedicated to renewing Japan's landscape after the war, Matsuda became a pioneer in developing industry technologies and treatments. He was entrusted with treating 2 500-year-old camphor or kusu trees, which were preserved in the Nagasaki's Sano Shrine after miraculously surviving the nuclear attack. Matsuda's relationship with St. Paul, Minnesota began in the 1970s when the city of Nagasaki gifted the city of St. Paul a Japanese garden in celebration of a sister city relationship established in 1955. The garden, located in St. Paul's Como Park, was designed by Matsuda in the traditional Japanese style, utilizing species native to Minnesota to create a sansui landscape of hills and meandering streams decorated by ornamental lanterns. The garden opened to the public in 1979, but was for many years overcome by maintenance problems resulting from geographic and linguistic challenges and a lack of understanding among Como Park staff of the fundamentals of Japanese gardening. His dedication to the garden unwavering, Matsuda traveled to St. Paul in 1984 to train volunteers on Japanese techniques, and from 1990 to 1991 he directly led a full renovation of the garden. Matsuda died in Nagasaki in 2012.
That's a big coin.
Even the kids are fascinated. They are drawn to the fish. Something for everyone in a Japanese garden.
Okay. Guys. Guys, look at this one. Oh,
I wish I could.
Now, this is the largest greenhouse structure built in 1914 that I have seen of this kind since I visited the Royal Botanical Gardens in out of London in Kew, England, built during the 1800s. Those are the largest, apparently, greenhouses in the world, but these seem to be kind of similar to that, but on a smaller scale. Absolutely beautiful. This is as close to the tropics as many people from Minnesota will ever get if they don't leave the state or this upper Midwest region. This is really a wonderful exhibit, protected from the harsh climates of the Great Lakes area during the winter time. Absolutely glorious. This is worth the trip just in and of itself. And what's beautiful is that these gardens are all free and open to the public 365 days a year.